Hello world, good morning. Welcome back to the Founders and Innovators Morning Show. I'm your host, Joia, and today I'm so delighted to be here with Rodrigo, who is the founder of Ticketpass.org. And I know you have such a really interesting story of how you created your early stage startup. It's something that has to do with a 7-pound bike.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it was basically, I got very frustrated with the ticketing space. My experience was like anyone, just buying tickets to gigs or events, train, buses, like any of us. But I started to know that kind of the industry was kind of broken, you know, like whenever you buy a ticket, if you cannot go, you end up with it. So it's unused and you just waste it. You're trying to sell it to your friends on Facebook, give it away. And I was like, why? So that's kind of started to like build up. And then I had this idea that, well, maybe you should be able to kind of pass it to someone else. You should be able to transfer it. It should be, you know, flexible. And from there, I said, all right, I have this idea. I want to prove that people want to do this fair. There needs to be a fair ticketing space, platform. And I said, all right, I'm not gonna build a big app or anything. I need to prove first that this works. So we moved to closer to campus where I could know that there's going to be some captive market. I volunteered as a promoter for a local nightclub in order to have some portfolio of events and tickets I could sell. And my platform was basically buying a 7-pound bike from a Chinese student, which I hustled the price down. And it was basically doing the platform, simulating it, cycling, selling tickets hand to hand. If you could no longer go, resell it, just cycling back. And that was totally like, that's the proper definition of not scalable. And in the weather in the UK is not as nice as well as you would imagine cycling in California or somewhere else in the world. But so that's kind of how it started. And once I started to get some traction, then I tried to build my own WordPress site, which I did well. And then I said, okay, let's take it to the next level. And then I decided to start building a team.
No, I love that. But it really is such an important story and a lesson that I think we can't hear often enough as entrepreneurs, especially when we're starting out. This idea of starting by doing the things that don't scale. Because we all have the vision of wanting to scale. We have that vision of wanting to grow a big, massive, powerful company, or at least many of us do. But the important point is that even if that's your goal to get there, you're not going to get there at the beginning. And often the best things you can do to actually get proof of concept, to actually get a good business started, is to start by doing the things that don't scale. And it sounds like that's exactly what you did. And now you're in this place of starting to build up a team. But something that I wanted to talk to you about, because I know another aspect of your story is at one point, you had this idea and it involves a certain amount of tech. And I know you thought at one point you wanted to try to outsource the tech, but then learned an important lesson about that. Another one that I think is really important for entrepreneurs to hear more than once.
Yeah. So yeah, the first thing after I build the WordPress is like, all right, I cannot keep doing this on my own. So I'm just going to take it first to like the engineering school. Actually, I don't know if it was first engineering school or I went to like one of these freelancing websites and be like, okay, because I think that's the dream, like for any entrepreneur who's got like a vision. The first thing that you say is, I want to build an app, that you can do this and that, but it is an app. And then you have all these books that I'm not very fan of them. Many of the founders might have read that, but like how to make a $1 billion app and all this stuff that all they tell you is like, you don't need to learn how to code. You just can outsource it anywhere. And that was my approach. You take your little savings that you have at the time, and then you try to find someone that can make it on a budget. First you go for an agency and they try to charge you ridiculous amount of money. And you go like, okay, no. And then you find one person that's willing to do it, in China or in India for a fraction of the cost, and you get what you paid for. So you can imagine how that went. I ended up with after 3-4 months, absolutely nothing that we could use. The guy kind of disappeared, was on and off and asking for more money. And I was like, this is just crazy. Like, that's when I remember, I think after that, that's when I went to engineering school, trying to see if anyone was interested of joining the team.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when I decided, you know what, screw this, I'm going to build a team. And more like, you need to find people who believe or feel the same pain that you're going through. And that's kind of the biggest clue for building your team. That's what I've noticed that is kind of make the difference. I went through the same process that many of us founders go, which is like kind of the co-founder dating, I call it. You anyone as a non-technical co-founder, any engineer that you meet, you're like, oh, you're a developer. Yeah. Like, oh, you're all like straight away trying to pitch him. That poor engineer is working for another company. He doesn't even, I don't know, he might not be writing on the languages that you're into or anything like that. And you're just pitching it the entire time. So that's not gonna help out. I think if you want a success co-founder finder, I would say you need to find or search in the places where it's more likely to find people with the same pain. And that's kind of, it is basically like dating, which I can go further in, but it's on Tinder. If you could at least profile to say, I want to see all the vegans or all the vegetarians, then you have something really common that is going to kind of put you together rather than just swiping yes, no, and guys seeing guys and girls who like, you want to be my co-founder? Do you want to be my co-founder? But yeah, build a team first.
So tell us, where are you at in building a team, and how has that process been for you?
Sure. So that was about 3-4 years, back. Well, the idea started about 5 years ago. And after that, I started bootstrapping. I moved to London, and it was basically just alone, like solo founder. And then I managed to get some investment. And then again, I had the opportunity, either I outsourced to actually a bigger company, like a proper serious company, or should I hire one developer? Like, that's it. And I decided to hire one developer. And I said, you know what? It's you and me. Let's do it, right? Let's go full time on this. Let's do it. And yes, you have that economic side to be able to say, all right, we can both survive, for a couple of years or a year. But then from that, then you start building it, and more people that like what you're working on, they'll start like volunteering or, and then you start building a proper team. You have a little bit more funding that you can hire 2 or 3 people. It is different than just outsourcing it to an agency. Now, don't get me wrong, outsourcing it does work sometimes. If you want to just build a prototype and to be able to prove it to like some investors and stuff like that, it works. That's totally fine. But I think if you want something scalable, if you have already passed that proof of concept stage, you need to develop it yourself, because like you're learning, you hear the concept of pivoting the entire time. So you will be requested features to remove features, to add features, to, be doing like constant things. So if you're outsourcing it to an agency and all this stuff, like you need a proper team to be there, 24/7 if anything breaks, rather than just a few hours and it's going to be invoice over invoice over invoice. So yeah.
No, and I think that is a really important lesson. And I wanted to say, I love your analogy of finding a co-founder is kind of like dating. And I think that's definitely true. One of the ways I've thought about it is, in many ways, finding a co-founder, it's kind of like a marriage of sorts. I mean, it's a long-term commitment, hopefully, that you are making, where you're going to be spending a lot of time together, where you want almost the same kind of balance you want in a marriage, where you want there to be sort of enough similarity of values and vision, but enough difference that you can kind of bring out the best of each other. But you're right too. I've seen it too, where people are, they're like, the desperate guy at the bar that's so desperate for the girl that it's like they're proposing marriage to the first, tech person they see who could possibly be their co-founder. But I love this approach that you're saying of making the point to build up your team, that, it's appropriate to outsource perhaps for certain projects, but when it really comes to developing what is hopefully a viable business over time, you want to make the effort and to invest in those really good long-term relationships. So tell us a little bit more about what's on the horizon for ticketpass.org. What are you working on now, and where do you see all of this going?
Sure. So, well, as you know, Ticketpass is like Eventbrite, but for good. We give back 50% of our booking fees every time that a ticket is sold. So it's free for free events. And what we're doing is, I mean, we spent about 2 years just developing the software alone, something scalable that people could use. So our next milestone is now getting it out there. It's been under development and like in private beta for a couple of years, but earlier this year we kind of like officially launched it, and we're starting to get now big companies kind of switching to users, and like that's super exciting because it's like this is amazing, that the fact that we're using now events to have a massive footprint and do good in the world. Like you have a small ceramic workshop of, I don't know, 50 people, that would be 50 donations. I don't know the numbers in America, but there are like 1.3 million events in the UK alone every year. So you get one festival, then that would be, 50,000 donations. So that's kind of my drive today. Is like, yes, we are an ethical ticketing platform. We are actually trying to do good. But let's say we are like the Toms in the ticketing space. You buy one ticket, you make one donation. So yeah, the plan now is getting out there, getting people involved, getting feedback all the time, and do some good.
So it sounds like you're in a position where it would be great if event organizers reach out to you. And then are you still at the stage where people who are interested in buying tickets should come check it out as well?
Yeah, right now it's mainly for organizers. So it's an event management platform that they can go, very simple, very clean. They can go and create their events, manage their registrations, or sell tickets if they need to. So I would say any event organizers, anyone that hosts small meetups, conferences, anything, just go give it a try. It's completely free, and see, like, let's see some good on that. Getting feedback, that would be great.
That sounds awesome. So we are almost out of time, but one more question I wanted to ask you, because something you mentioned was that, a lot of people perhaps get the wrong idea about entrepreneurialism and really what it takes, especially given what you might read in some of the books out there. So I'm curious if you could tell people a book that you recommend, a book that you think actually provides good advice for startups and entrepreneurs.
Oh, wow. All right. So I do read a lot of books, but I'm not the normal reader. I have like 7 or 8 books reading at the same time. I really like one really recent. It's like Straight Talks to Startups, I think it's called. I just cuts down to the chase, like cuts down straight in what are the things, what are the mistakes, and for every stage of a startup. So from early idea, proof of concept, to raising funds, to negotiating with investors. So I think it's a very nice, concise, book that just puts everything in one place. But also, you have the venture deals whenever you're actually doing through some funding, so you have to deep work whenever you need to be productive. So there are many books that I would recommend, but it depends on the stage. But if I would, to all our listeners, founders, I would really suggest to check that book, because it's all in one package. I quite like that one. But yeah, and also I was going to say about the dating and your co-founder, because I wanted to make this a little bit more clear. It is like marriage, but they're also single parents. It is harder. You don't need a co-founder. It makes it easier to raise a baby, which is your startup, in pairs or with 3 or 4 people, but it's still possible. So don't feel like if you don't find the right person, do it. Just do it. Go and do it yourself, and don't wait for that precise, I need to find someone. There are many ways you can kind of prove the concept, then you meet an angel, back you up, and off you go.
That's a great addition. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here, Rodrigo. I'm definitely going to go check out ticketpass.org and also that book you recommended, because that's one I haven't read yet. So I'm excited to go check that out. So thank you so much.
No worries. My pleasure. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah. Bye, everybody. Hope you all have a really great morning.
Thanks for joining us today. Please don't forget to subscribe, review, and share this show. If you'd like exclusive content and behind-the-scenes insight, for just $4 a month, you can support us at buymeacoffee.com. Now, go make it a great day.